the Cowboys get the 20-15 win. If they had lost in beautiful fashion, we'd be losing our minds. So if they win in ugly fashion, maybe we should be giving them credit. But C-Rob, this game from the outset was painful. As a football fanatic, it was painful to watch this thing.
Yeah, it's one of those games where, you know, when the Cowboys win it, my first thought at the end was, if they had lost this game, it would have been the most catastrophic tailspin start for the Cowboys because it was so ugly. The Giants are just, they're, especially if you take away Malik Nabers, they're really not a potent offensive machine. The Cowboys, to me, I'm sitting there and I'm staring at some of the decisions, the Mike McCarthy, that whole field goal thing where he didn't call the timeout and it's like rushed and you're like, what is going on? Why would you not take a timeout there and give your field goal unit a chance to set up? And then Brandon Aubrey misses the field goal. That was like the one highlight the whole game is you're watching Brandon Aubrey and you're going like, this guy's such a weapon at this point. But I made the joke, like, if they start working on the extension now, it'll get done by 2028 and he'll be making $20 million a year. like that's how every star they have now. Yeah. You're like, it's going to take forever to get it done. It's going to be a blowout salary. No, I guess I just looked at it. And to me, I'm like, I remember when the Cowboys were an offense that felt pretty lethal. And that was only a year ago. It wasn't that long ago. Yeah. I remember there was a point where they felt very, it was a potent team. And now I'm like, oh, well, it looks like Rico Dowdle is going to be, finally someone who's going to take the reins from the running back spot beyond CeeDee Lamb. There's not a lot about the Cowboys offense that feels particularly dynamic right now. And then, the defense, we're kind of on pins and needles with Micah Parsons now and the low ankle, or, well, I guess it sounds like it's going to be a high ankle. We just don't know what grade of high ankle injury it's going to be.
Yeah, I think the one thing, it's funny because this Cowboys offense, we all looked at it the past few years. We're like, how does this operate? They really have one playmaker. They're not really great anywhere else, but well, hey, they're still good. Now it's kind of all catching up to them where you say, well, all they have is CeeDee Lamb. This is not really a functional offense at this point. I think it comes down to they can't run the ball, and that trickles down to everything else. Like, I mean, they just have no running game to speak of
that
whatsoever.
goes back to last season, though, too, right?
Yeah, I know, but at least Tony Pollard was okay. I didn't think Tony Pollard was that valuable, but I guess he was because they have nothing in the running game. And it puts more pressure on Dak. It puts more pressure on the receivers. It puts more pressure on the defense because they're on the field longer. It's just really not good for them right now. And I don't know really how it gets fixed. They took this whole like running back is devalued to the extreme. Like they could have done something at running back this offseason. Instead, they were like, Zeke, $2 million, sure, whatever. It's kind of ridiculous the way they treated the running back position this offseason, and it's showing. It's really hurting them, I think. Brandon Aubrey, first of all, is there a better player at his position than Brandon Aubrey is as kicker right now?
Question.
Like, is Patrick Mahomes a better quarterback than Brandon Aubrey is a kicker, right? Like, that's the kind of question. It's unbelievable how good he is, except right at the end on Wednesday, I need to take my little lap right here because Jory and Fitz both took the Cowboys, -5.5. I was like, well, I'll take the Giants. And Brandon Aubrey comes out for that field goal, and Al Michaels is making the jokes, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, okay, just get it over with. I'm Apollo, and Drago's about ready to land the last right hand to him. And Brandon Aubrey somehow misses. And the Cowboys bettors, they're 85% of the money last night at BetMGM was on the Cowboys. Everybody had the Cowboys last night. And Brandon Aubrey misses. The first miss for 50 and beyond in his career. I think it was 16-16. Absolutely stunning that he missed that. It didn't matter to the game. But I come out of this game saying, the Cowboys are, I feel worse about the Cowboys now, even with a win. I feel worse about the Cowboys. They couldn't put away the Giants. They couldn't cover Malik Nabers. That's going to be a problem for everybody. Malik Nabers is awesome. They couldn't run the ball. They just looked like a really, really mediocre team that just beat a worse team. That's all it was. They got to win. Good for them. It's better to do that at 2-2 than 1-3. But I came out of that game saying, yeah, you won, but it kind of reiterated, this is not a good Cowboys team. Maybe it gets better. It's always September. We've seen teams improve after September, but I come out of this game really, really lukewarm on the Cowboys.
I guess my problem is what I can't make sense of. Let me say it this way. is that to everybody's comments all summer about the running game, they really didn't have. I mean, Tony Pollard averaged 61 yards a game last year. So I kept looking at it and saying, all they got to do is replace 61 yards. Like that doesn't seem like that is, and they can't, right? It's impossible to me how bad their running game has got. And then the flip side of it last night, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that the Cowboys fixed their run defense, but the Giants couldn't get anything done. And when you think about like what a short week looks like, you know, you play on Sunday, Monday, everybody's in the facility, Tuesday, Wednesday, at best you have a light practice and a walkthrough, and then you are in the game. So the Cowboys did not suddenly fix their run defense by having a light practice and a walkthrough. Let's not get it twisted. That means the Giants just couldn't do anything. And I'm looking at this Giants team just amazed by that.
Come on, Fitz. When you're looking at the Giants, right? I mean, you're going, wow, this team's a rushing juggernaut. Part of the thing that's surrounded the Giants this year has been, oh man, Saquon not being there is really noticeable now. Like this is,
Singletary's been okay.
He's been okay.
I'll give the Cowboys credit for stopping the run yesterday. They were a lot tougher than I thought they'd be.
Okay, they were better, but again, I don't think we're talking about a dominant running football team, right?
No.
Particularly when you're looking at Nabers being clear the ace number one guy. If they didn't do a good job taking him away, obviously. I don't want to take that off the table for the Cowboys, but I will say this. When I went through training camp there, right, I sat there and I looked at it, and CeeDee Lamb wasn't in practice. And when you would watch the Cowboys in practice, part of the conversation I remember having with someone in the sidelines, I was like, man, these wide receivers do not look really very good at all. But once you take CeeDee Lamb out of this equation, they look pretty vanilla. And then I said the offensive line doesn't look like it's better. It looks worse. And the running backs look like they're going to be a problem all season long. So literally every single thing that looked like on offense that looked like was going to be a problem when you stood there with your 10 toes down on the sideline on day one is still a problem now. Yeah. Almost through a month of the season. And that's, to me, pretty indicative of there were things that did not happen in the offseason that needed to. And that is why Jerry Jones, when he comes out and puts the responsibility on himself for the Cowboys being where they are, I buy into that. It is his responsibility. The roster is kind of jacked up right now, and you knew it pretty early on with this team that they could be in this position.
Yeah, it absolutely true. But the thing is, you kind of alluded to it, they'd been having this formula before, and it was fine. Like Dak was great; he was MVP candidate. Like
12 years every year.
All of a sudden, it's just like this season's more like a copy of a copy of a copy, and it's really like, okay, now this is not very good. And again,
it's the 14th Xerox in a row, right? Eventually, you're just
eventually it's like, okay, now finally we've reached a breaking point where this is just not going to be good. And Brandon Cooks is a little bit worse, and really don't have a number 3 guy, and Jake Ferguson's a little banged up still, and the offensive line's out. Like everything just kind of contributes to that, and maybe they get better. And Dak's awesome. Like Dak is going to carry them as far as they can go. But again, this is just not the type of team that right now, as we speak, I'm really excited about making the playoffs or challenging anybody for the NFC East or anything like that.
So what am I supposed to make of Daniel Jones on the other side of this too? Because I mean, Daniel Jones, if I had told you going into Thursday Night Football, it'd be 29-40 for 281. Did have the pick, yes, but I mean, you look at the numbers, and it looks like it makes sense. They just can't close drives. They can't do anything on 3rd and short. They can't find a way to get themselves into the end zone. They settle for field goals all the time. And I'm sitting here looking at Malik Nabers, and, frankly, not only Malik, but like Wan'Dale was great last night, right? So you look at a couple of guys that are going, except for the drop, You look for guys that are just going off, and I'm still looking at it saying, but I don't know if Daniel Jones is really any good.
No. And he is what he is. Like if they had a good team around him, I think Daniel Jones could win games, but they don't have a good team around him, and they're asking him to be somebody he's not. He's just a mediocre quarterback.
If you look at how the offense is distributed with him too, Wan'Dale and Malik Nabers, where are they getting a lot of these footballs? I mean, Nabers can do intermediate and deep. He can do all that. But I mean, Wan'Dale, it's all short stuff, right? It's short and create. A lot of Malik Nabers stuff is pretty short stuff. And I look at the Nabers situation. They picked the right guy. You're like, okay, you went and you got the dynamic offensive weapon for him that he needed. Wan'Dale Robinson's been efficient, right? He's a piece, right?
Perfectly
so you're like,
fine,
all right, if you get a third piece here, you improve the line, you add some depth to running back. Maybe we can turn him into sort of an Alex Smithy Chiefs kind of career, right? Where we can generate offense with him. He can be potent, but he needs a lot of help surrounding him. Okay. So if that's the plan, right? But I don't ever think that offense, all of a sudden, we're going to look at it and go, geez, man, now we're getting into the, offense that stretches well beyond 10. Now we're getting into an offense that stretches 5, 6, 7 passes beyond the 20. That just doesn't feel like something that's really going to develop with him. And you just have to decide now, I think, if you're the Giants, this is what his skill set is. This is what the build is ultimately going to have to be around him. And if they have done that, if Wan'Dale and Malik, that's the first signs of this is what the build is going to look like, I would expect them to add, a third piece to the wide receiving core. Theo Johnson, I don't know what the hell they're doing. I watched Theo Johnson track down an interception. Theo Johnson's 260. That was one of the most. It really was truly one of the most impressive plays last night. Is you see a 260-pound dude, a DB who's gone. It's a pick six, and all of a sudden you see a 260-pound tight end track him down from behind. He had to run 30, 40 yards. It might have been longer than that to actually get there. If they can figure out, I think, how to work Theo Johnson in, maybe there are some signs of life for the Giants. But this is going to take time. This is not a one-season thing. It might be a couple of years to build this.
I also, frankly, hated, I should say, some of the play calling. Like Dable, the 3rd and goal from it was a 6. It's a little flare route out to Wan'Dale. He never had a shot. My idea of 3rd and goal from the 6 is not. You don't get your receiver the ball at the 5 and just hope to God that he can figure out a way to wiggle through everybody to get it in the end zone. I didn't like that either.
And what have we said all along about quarterbacks? Look, most quarterbacks in the NFL, most that middle tier quarterbacks, you can complete the 5-yard out and the short pass over the middle. You make your money in the red zone, and you make your money hitting a couple deep balls a game. And Daniel Jones just can't do that. We saw it last night when the money was on the table. Yeah, he put up good numbers, but the Cowboys always held. 3rd and 6, there's an incompletion. Here comes Greg Joseph for another field goal. In the 4th quarter, Darius Slayton was open deep, and he threw it to him, and it just hung up there forever and got broken up. And those are, look, the margins are so slim in the NFL, and those are the margins. It's, can you make that deep pass to Darius Slayton to get a touchdown late in the game and take a lead? No, Daniel Jones couldn't. Can you make those plays in Cowboys side of the field to get in the end zone and not settle for field goals? No, he can't. So that's kind of the difference. That's the difference between Daniel Jones and one of these other upper tier, Dak Prescott. Everybody can complete, 5, 6, 7-yard passes and keep the chains moving. But Daniel Jones just can't make the difference making plays to make him a much better quarterback.